Rescue efforts continue in Ecuador, and Colombia's president says he believes in a regulated use of drugs. Those are our headlines. My name is Reagan Des Vignes, and this is From the South. Thank you so much for joining us. Rescue teams have pulled out survivors from the rubble in Ecuador's city of Manta. The official death toll of Saturday's earthquake now stands at almost 500. Today, authorities said that about 1,700 people are still missing. International teams are still searching for survivors and bodies, and 50 so far have been rescued from the rubble. And as the government focuses its efforts on finding survivors, President Rafael Correa, who has been visiting the affected areas, expressed his hope in Ecuador's resilience in recovering from the tragedy.
So well, the situation is stabilizing. We're working quickly, with good coordination. All the resources have arrived, all the countries mobilized. It's a huge tragedy, the biggest one since the Ambato earthquake. But the force of the Ecuadorian people is bigger.
Meanwhile, survivors of Saturday's earthquake in Ecuador are still trying to salvage their belongings from the rubble of their collapsed homes. As the rescue efforts continue, groups of volunteers from throughout the country have traveled to the affected provinces to help. They've been assisting by cooking food and distributing aid. And solidarity has pretty much characterized the reaction of the Ecuadorian people thus far. The capital, Quito, has already sent 2 airplanes loaded with aid and rescue workers. Trucks and buses are also being sent to the areas with food, medical aid and other materials. Our correspondent in Quito, Carla Gonzalez, has more.
Hundreds have gathered here in Quito, Ecuador, to collect food, water, medicine, and anything that people from the coastal areas of Ecuador might need, after they were hit by a 7-point earthquake that hit the coastal areas of Pedernales, Manta, Puerto Viejo that were very much affected. People are coming here in families, friends, young people, children. They're bringing anything they can to help their brothers in the cities that were most affected.
Colombia has also sent water and rescue teams to Ecuador, but in an unrelated story, President Juan Manuel Santos said during an interview that he would support a regularized use of drugs. He explained that 40 years of fighting drugs using the military have not produced the expected results. However, he backed away from the idea of legalizing drugs and explained that his country will still proceed with an ambitious plan. That plan, proposed by the FARC guerrillas, entails replacing coca crops with other agricultural products in the areas controlled by them.
When we sign the peace agreement and start applying the agreement, we will have the golden opportunity to get to these zones where coca crops are and remain there. And we will be a lot more efficient in the substitution of those crops.
Cuba's governing Communist Party is holding its 7th Congress. During the Congress, the party members voted for a new leadership, but current President Raul Castro will continue to head the party. Former leader Fidel Castro also made a special appearance during the Congress as a member of the party. He congratulated the party members on the election process.
This could possibly be one of the last times that I speak from this room. I have voted for all of the candidates who have been submitted by Congress, and I'm thankful for the invitation and the honor of you all listening to me. I congratulate everyone, but firstly, Comrade Raul Castro for his magnificent efforts.
Former Chilean President Patricio Aylwin, and the first democratically elected Chilean president after Pinochet's dictatorship, has died at the age of 97. Aylwin, who was a prominent member of the Christian Democratic Party, led democratic reforms in the country and positioned Chile in the international market. Today, Venezuela's government was set to close the Congreso de la Patria. Thousands of government supporters rallied to participate in the final day, which has gathered suggestions and proposals from social movements and a diversity of groups from Venezuelan society. Meanwhile, the opposition held a gathering where they analyzed new strategies to pressure the Electoral Commission to speed up a referendum aimed at ousting President Nicolas Maduro. Last week, the opposition delivered 192,000 signatures, which represents about 1% of registered voters. Those signatures are now being analyzed by the Commission. However, the opposition says they're taking too long. The head of Brazil's lower house, Eduardo Cunha, who is under investigation for corruption and money laundering, officially delivered the impeachment documents to the Senate. Cunha gave his fellow party comrade Renan Canheros, who is the Senate Speaker, the 12,000 pages of documents related to the impeachment process against President Dilma Rousseff. The documents will now be reviewed by the Senate to continue the process. However, the senators have not announced when they would cast their vote. President Dilma Rousseff expressed her concerns over the illegality of the process.
This is not a real impeachment procedure,
mas é uma tentativa
but an attempt at an indirect election by those who couldn't reach power any other way.
não teria acesso.
After Argentina returned to the global debt market with its first sovereign bond sale in 15 years, investors are demanding that the government issue more bonds. The government claims that there is a demand for almost 6 times the bonds issued this week, which they interpret as trust in the economy.
There's a demand for more than $60 billion for the bond that Argentina is offering, and whose prices will close this afternoon. This is the largest demand ever for a bond or an action by a government or a company in emerging markets. It is possibly among the 20 largest in history for a bond issue in general.
The crucial New York primary kicked off early this morning, but not without controversy. There have been widespread reports of problems that made voting a challenge for many New Yorkers, and this has prompted the city comptroller to announce a probe of the Board of Elections. 291 Democratic delegates and 95 Republican delegates are up for the taking. At least 6 people have been killed in flooding that has covered the Houston region in the United States. Hundreds of people were forced to evacuate after 17 inches of rain fell on Monday. Thousands of homes and businesses have been left without power. At least 28 people were killed when a suicide bomber blew up a bus full of explosives near a government security building in Kabul, Afghanistan. More than 300 were injured in the attack claimed by the Taliban. After the initial blast, armed men and more suicide bombers stormed the heavily guarded compound, according to police. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has condemned the bombing.
First of all, I'd like to express my deepest condolences for the victims and their families and friends and I condemn strongly this terrorist attacks for the people in Afghanistan. There is no justification whatsoever attacking civilian people as well as even security people. We must fight against these terrorist attacks.
The second week of peace talks are proving to be difficult as the opposition's Higher Negotiations Committee announced its departure early today. According to the HNC, the talks were not advancing. However, another group called the Internal Damascus Platform met with the UN envoy for Syria, Staffan de Mistura. Meanwhile, at least 50 people were killed, including children, in airstrikes on 2 markets in the rebel stronghold, the Idlib province. Jerusalem's district court has convicted an ultra-Orthodox Jewish man of the murder of a teenage girl, which happened during the city's 2015 Gay Pride Parade. The man attacked and stabbed several people and wounded 6 others, including the deceased, while they were taking part in the annual festivities. One of his victims, who attended the court hearing, had this to say.
One of the victims of the stabbing in the Gay Pride Parade in Jerusalem in July. And I came to see the verdict basically, to see how many charges he's being convicted. And, I really wanted to see that this person is not going to get out soon.
An Israeli man has been convicted of murdering a Palestinian teenager in Jerusalem. The court rejected Ben David's insanity plea for the crime that helped trigger the 2014 Gaza war. The insanity plea had postponed his formal conviction and sentencing as he had to receive psychological assessments. He will be sentenced on May 3rd. Palestine is sending medics and aid to Ecuador to assist in the efforts after Saturday's earthquake. More on this report with Noha Razin.
The Palestinian Authority's health ministry said that a Palestinian rescue team left the occupied West Bank on its way to Ecuador Monday to help the victims of a deadly earthquake that struck the South America country Saturday night. The powerful 7.8 magnitude earthquake has claimed the lives of 350 people so far and left behind at least 3,000 injured. The quake was the strongest to hit Ecuador in decades. Palestinian Health Minister Jawad Awad said in a statement Sunday that he had received instructions from President Mahmoud Abbas to send medical equipment, medicine, and a team of 15 emergency and disaster medics to Ecuador as soon as possible.
We don't forget our friends. A deadly earthquake has hit Ecuador. There are many victims. We care for Ecuador as an ally. We will help the people of Ecuador no matter how moderate our capabilities are, and we will pray for their safety.
Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki expressed his condolences to the families of the victims and confirmed that Palestine and Ecuador have always had strong ties and have been supportive of one another over many years. The Ecuadorian government sent donations of food, medicines, and clothes to Palestinians affected by Israel's devastating offensive on the besieged Gaza Strip in the summer of 2014. Noha Razin, teleSur's TV, Palestine.
The founder of Germany's anti-Islamist Pegida movement has gone on trial for hate speech. Lutz Bachmann is accused of inciting racial hatred in Facebook posts in which he called refugees cattle, scumbags, and filth. The court says that Bachmann disrupted public order through his comments, which constituted an attack on the dignity of refugees. If found guilty, he could face between 3 months and 5 years in prison. Spanish police arrested a Moroccan man on the island of Malora earlier today on suspicion of having close links to Islamist militants. According to the Interior Ministry, he's allegedly been recruiting fighters to join forces in Syria and Iraq. They added that he may have been in charge of commissioning potential attacks in Spain and across Europe. The 2000 IKA Kiteboarding World Championships has begun and is taking place in France. The annual competition will see both men and women take part in freestyle, big air and wave riding categories. There are 8 rounds of competition that will see 60 riders from 19 countries battle it out for the championship title. And finally this evening, on Monday, a U.S. delegation of cultural leaders and artists, including R&B singer Usher, arrived in Havana, Cuba, as part of a 4-day artistic exchange. The cultural delegation visited Cuba's famous University of the Arts, where musicians performed a concert with classical music and folkloric dance performances. The delegation hopes to identify further opportunities for artistic collaboration and people-to-people exchanges. And that's our newscast this evening. For more on these and other stories, you can visit our website, telesurtv.net/English, and you can join us on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.